Life, gentlemen, has a funny way of presenting us with challenges. Sometimes it's the grand, sweeping dramas that test our mettle. Other times, it's the small, seemingly insignificant encounters that reveal the true character of those around us, and perhaps a little about ourselves, too. Today's story comes to us from a listener who found himself in one of those latter situations, a classic case of entitlement, clashing with simple, quiet enjoyment. He was just trying to relax, a pursuit we all understand, when he ran headfirst into a rather territorial individual. Let's hear what happened next. The sun beat down with a relentless intensity, the kind that makes you appreciate even the slightest whisper of shade. I was on the beach, armed with a good book, and frankly, just looking for a quiet spot to decompress. Now, there were a few trees offering a sliver of respite from the heat, and beneath them, a couple of those ubiquitous resort deck chairs. My first thought was, these likely belong to the resort, so I made a mental note to steer clear. But they were placed on public beach, you see, so I laid my towel down right beside them, a reasonable distance away, minding my own business. An hour or so drifted by. I'd gone for a dip, lost myself in the pages, when in a moment of minor clumsiness, my bag tipped over, spilling some of its contents into the sand. It seemed an opportune moment, since I'd been left completely undisturbed, to place my bag up on one of those empty chairs. Well, as it turned out, my peaceful solitude was about to be interrupted. Within minutes, an older gentleman, I'd peg him at late 60s, ambled over, muttering under his breath. He spotted my bag on his chair and with a pointed finger and a scowl, clearly made his displeasure known. I removed my belongings immediately and offered an apology. It was grudging, I'll admit, given the rather impolite manner in which I'd been addressed. He continued his grumbling, shuffling the chair around as if preparing for royalty, while I attempted to get back to my book. Then his wife, I presume, joined him, and the two of them launched into a rather animated tirade, their accents thick with a distinctly European flavor. They were quite insistent that I'd had the entire beach to choose from, and yet I had somehow encroached on their sacred territory. Now, had they approached me with a modicum of civility, I would have moved without a second thought. But the sheer audacity, the ingrained sense of ownership, that changed things. I decided in that moment that I wasn't going to be bullied. Calmly, I informed them that they too were welcome to find any spot along the vast expanse of the beach. This only seemed to inflame them further. I reiterated that I was causing no harm, simply enjoying a public amenity. The man's voice rose. You're crazy! You put your luggage on my chair!" I calmly pointed out that I had been there for an hour without issue. Their response was baffling. They claimed they had been there longer. The logic, I confess, escaped me. I simply stated that I had no issue with the situation and returned to my reading, while they, huffing and puffing, set down their belongings and retreated to the water, clearly expecting me to depart. At this stage, I was contemplating heading off for some lunch anyway. This rather unpleasant encounter, however, presented me with the perfect excuse to linger. For another half hour, I sat, book in hand, occasionally glancing over. They swam, they glared, they waited for me to leave. Eventually, the man emerged from the sea. I remained engrossed in my book as he maneuvered his chair, deliberately positioning it to cast a shadow directly over my head for a considerable time. I didn't look up, unsure of his endgame, but I did notice him deliberately walk across my towel where I was sitting and with great effort kick a generous amount of sand in my direction. "That's very kind of you," I remarked, my tone dry. "I thought with age one learned better manners. It's rather embarrassing for a gentleman of your years to behave in such a fashion." As a direct result, I remained there for a good portion of another 30 minutes. His wife, meanwhile, had begun to resemble a dried prune, her face a tapestry of wrinkles, clearly trying to avoid my gaze by remaining submerged. I decided it was finally time to seek out that much-needed lunch, but not before one final, satisfying flourish. I slowly gathered my belongings, carefully ensuring I left nothing behind. Then, with a deliberate sweep, Perhaps a few extra flicks for good measure, I shook the sand from my towel directly onto the, let's just say, considerable form of this blustering buffoon. He turned crimson with rage. I calmly pointed out that it was, in fact, the very same sand he had so graciously bestowed upon me. Sitting upright in his chair, he hastily scooped up a handful of sand and flung it towards me. What he hadn't factored in was the prevailing wind. Quite beautifully, the entire gust blew back into his own face. "Have a nice day," I called out, before strolling off down the beach, offering a final wave to his wife, still shriveling in the water, as shouts of "Idiot! Idiot!" echoed from the distance. It was, I must confess, a truly excellent way to conclude my afternoon. So, what do we learn from this little seaside skirmish? That patience is indeed a virtue, but sometimes a well-timed response, delivered with a touch of dry wit, is precisely what's required when faced with unreasonable behavior. If you've ever had to contend with a similar situation, a tale of entitled entitlement, share your experiences in the comments below. It's always good to know you're not alone. And if you appreciate these sorts of stories, make sure to subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.